Okay, Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to speak tonight because I didn't want to get accused by the administration of grandstanding again. And I resent the fact, Mr. Failing, that you would say that that was a waste of time. People like you don't want people to come to council and give council the information they need to make proper decisions. Now let me explain to you. The process of design review, and I'll do this for educational purposes, and this is all I'm going to say tonight. I appreciate council and the Community Development Committee taking the time to review this information and take it on seriously. I built the first industrial park to come in the city in over 20 years back in 1995. I brought 11 new businesses from outside of the city and outside of the county to this town. I think I have a right to be able to speak to the experience and expertise of what it takes to bring somebody to town. The mayor knows this, the administration knows this, and most people that know me know this. When somebody comes to a builder to build in any town, they come to you with a need for space. That space is then designed by an architect and a builder to determine the cost and what they can afford. In most cases, and this is before the banking crisis, they would go to a bank to find out how much money they could borrow and how much cash they had on hand. They would then go borrow the maximum they could borrow or whatever they were capable of, keep their overhead where it is, and they would determine the square footage based on what the architect's design is or the builder's design would be. Use a hypothetical number, if it was $300,000 to build this facility and it gave them 10,000 square feet, they then would go and lay out the way they would need it for their facility, their business, what they would need for manufacturing, warehouse, office space, and so forth. They would then go to the bank and they would take care of making sure they could borrow that appropriate amount of money. Under the current design review guidelines that are in place by some people that are deciding what they like versus what is appropriate, okay? They come in there, they bring their plans in there, they do all their planning, it comes in front of this board, and all of a sudden they find out, boy, they can't borrow $300,000, they have to borrow $330,000 because there's $30,000 more cost because of red brick, fences that are black, or whatever the uniform design review guidelines that those particular people like, blue brick, or whatever it is. And then people have to decide, okay, I need a smaller building, it may not be exactly what I want, or I can't afford it, I go back to the bank, they can't borrow the extra money. That's the problem that it causes when you go through the process. And when there is no measure of going through and having discussion about it, and it's just exactly like this, one size fits all, it prevents people from being able to do the proper things. Now, under the banking standards today, it's even tougher. And these review guidelines need to be looked at and modified if necessary, and there should be nobody should be sitting here telling people they shouldn't have discussion. That's what it's all about. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Failing. It is not about telling people they cannot come to council and talk to council. Council has the authority to do whatever they feel is necessary for the citizens of the city of Elyria. And it is not a waste of time, and I resent the fact that anybody would say that's a waste of time. And when you have this open forum, I would like the mayor to provide the 700 to 1,000 names that he has that have gone through this process so these people can be notified to come up and either fill out a card or come to the meeting and talk about it. And I believe you me, there will be some people that will think it was fine. There's going to be a lot of people who think it's not. And there's going to be a lot of people who didn't come here or didn't do their modifications because of it. Now, that's all I have to say, and I'm sorry if anybody construes it as grandstanding, but I take this city pretty seriously. I've got my business here, my residents here, I've got family here, and it's very important to me. And it's very important to a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, going forward, I believe it's important that we have some open dialogue, get some business leaders in here, find out what specific issues they have so we can learn. This committee, Community Development Committee, at times ends up with a lot of things in our lap, and we're fumbling around asking questions at the very end of the process, and we're expected to make a decision. So going forward, this item has been referred to the Community Development Committee. I believe it should stay in our committee. I am going to say that we invite or somehow invite those that should be invited to have dialogue so we can start the open process of discussing what needs to be tweaked, and if anything needs to be tweaked or changed, to make it easier or anything. It's going to be a learning process. I know it's going to be a learning process for me. So I'm going to make a suggestion to the committee that we follow up with another meeting on Monday, October 12th. I've been told that might be Columbus Day. I work that day, but I'm not sure if the city does.
Through the chair.
Just a moment. Okay. If that is indeed a holiday, we'll do it on Tuesday, the 13th.
Through the chair.
Yes, Mr. Kershaw.
That's going to be a regular community development meeting.
Yes, it will.
I think I was talking earlier with Mr. Brubaker. I think we should have it on an off day and have a special meeting because usually utilities, or not utilities, but finance is after community development, and I don't want to make this rushed and just have this a whole night, special night on its own.
Well,
we should have a special, just change the date from a regular community development date so people aren't rushed and the other finance members and stuff aren't here till Wednesday.
Okay. Mr. Bullock?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman. We can have finance before community development. Have finance first.
That's fine with me.
But if you want to keep that night.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but I mean with the timeline and everything, if you're inviting people here at 6 or something, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. When Mr. Brubaker made a similar referral to this earlier in the year, the biggest obstacle to this was staff's time required to prepare for such a meeting. Staff is much thinner. It was thinner to begin the year, and it's even more thin now. So I guess part of my question here, though, is that what's the assignment for city's personnel to have available for that meeting so as to help make it more as productive as possible, and that may also have a bearing on when you have your meeting.
Okay, well, I would assume that everybody that's going to take part in the meeting will want to listen, add some open comments, dialogue, facts, figures, past.
I guess what kind of facts and figures and presentation materials would you like from city staff so they can
Whatever would be
best to
helpful.
prepare
I mean,
for.
have this committee, this committee, we need a little help here.
Okay.
Anything that would be helpful for this committee to have information to make suggestions to make the whole process easier.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I would like to see the guidelines. I would like to see the guidelines and how can we tweak something if we don't know what it is.
Right.
So if we could see the guidelines,
Right.
I think that would be helpful to this committee.
Right, and quite frankly, I feel that this is going to be, I could be wrong, but I feel it's going to be an ongoing process. I mean, we're going to have a meeting, and we're calling the meeting right now for October 13th after the Finance Committee meeting, which would be approximately 6:30 on the 13th. And there's a lot of information and a lot to go over. So I'm anticipating a series of meetings. I don't think everything's going to be decided on the 13th, but if we can take 2 or 3 items, maybe take a look at it, and then go forward from there. I think it's going to take a series of meetings myself.
Okay. We'll have staff will prepare the guidelines to have in all of your boxes tomorrow morning, but in the meantime, if anybody wants to get a head start tonight, they are on our website.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well then let's just make this clear. We will follow up with the meeting on October 13th, that's Tuesday, and the community development that night will follow finance, and Chairman